Hi, I'm Bella. I woke up choking on smoke, the taste of ash coating my tongue like regret. The orange glow wasn't sunrise, it was my room, burning around me. 25 years old, and I was about to die in the same bedroom where I'd hidden from thunderstorms as a child. But before I tell you how I survived that night and what I discovered about my family afterward, tell me, what time is it where you are, and where are you listening from? The first thing I noticed wasn't the heat, it was the sound. A hungry crackling that seemed to whisper secrets I wasn't supposed to hear. My laptop screen glowed through the smoke like a dying eye before the flames swallowed it whole. I tried to scream, but smoke filled my lungs instead of air. The window, I had to reach the window. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Glass shattered somewhere below. Voices shouted orders I couldn't understand through the roar of destruction consuming everything I owned. My childhood journals, my college photos, the pressed flower from my first date, all of it feeding the beast that had invaded my sanctuary. Then hands grabbed me, rough, gloved hands that pulled me through the window frame as splinters of burning wood fell like deadly snow. I remember the ladder, the way it swayed as they carried me down. I remember the ambulance's red and blue lights painting the faces of neighbors who'd gathered to watch our tragedy unfold. But most of all, I remember him. Derek stood across the street, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets, watching the firefighters work. Our eyes met through the chaos, and what I saw there wasn't concern or relief that his sister had survived. It was something that made my blood freeze, despite the heat still radiating from the house behind me. Satisfaction. The paramedic wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, asking questions I couldn't answer. "Are you hurt? Can you tell me your name?" But I couldn't stop staring at my brother. Derek Scott, star athlete, straight-A student, golden child of the Scott family. The brother who'd never looked at me with anything but carefully calculated indifference. Until night. Tonight, his mask had slipped. "Bella!" Carmen's voice cut through the noise like broken glass. My mother pushed through the crowd, still elegant in her anniversary dinner dress despite the chaos. "Oh my God, baby, are you okay?" She reached for me, but her eyes darted immediately to the house, calculating damage, assessing the cost to our family's image. Miguel appeared beside her, already on his phone, probably calling our insurance company before the flames were even extinguished. "It's contained to the second floor," I heard the fire chief tell them. "Looks like it started in your daughter's room, probably electrical. These old houses, you know how it is." Electrical. The word echoed in my head as I watched Derek finally cross the street, his face now arranged in perfect brotherly concern. "Thank God you're safe," he said, pulling me into a hug that felt like a performance for the crowd. Against my ear, he whispered, "You always were a heavy sleeper." Something about the way he said it, too knowing, too satisfied, sent ice through my veins. Morning came with the smell of burned wood and the sound of contractors assessing damage. I sat in our pristine kitchen staring at my coffee while Carmen orchestrated our family's response with military precision. She had already showered, dressed, and applied makeup that made her look like a grieving, but composed mother, rather than someone whose daughter had nearly died hours before. "The important thing is that everyone's safe," she told Mrs. Henderson from next door, who'd brought over a casserole and hungry curiosity. "These old houses, you know, we've been meaning to update the electrical work." Derek nodded solemnly from his seat beside me. I keep thinking about what could have happened if the smoke alarm hadn't woken her up. He let the sentence hang, playing the traumatized brother perfectly. But I remember waking to flames, not an alarm. "Where were you when it started?" I asked him quietly while Carmen continued her performance for the neighbor. His coffee cup paused halfway to his lips. "Asleep. In my room. Why?" "I thought I saw you outside, before the fire trucks came." The muscle in his jaw twitched, but his voice remained steady. "You're confused, Bells. Trauma does that. Makes you remember things that didn't happen." Miguel looked up from his phone. "The insurance adjuster will be here in an hour. Tom Bradley. He's good. Efficient. We'll have this sorted quickly." An hour later, Tom Bradley proved Miguel right about efficiency. He spent exactly 12 minutes in my destroyed room, asked 3 questions, and declared the cause officially electrical. No accelerant testing, no investigation of burn patterns, just a signature on papers that would pay for renovations and close the case. "Tragic accident," he told my parents, shaking Miguel's hand. "But these things happen. Good thing your daughter got out."
I watched them from the hallway, something cold settling in my stomach. This felt rehearsed, planned, too smooth for a random house fire. "I saw Derek outside," I said to Carmen after Bradley left. She stopped wiping down the already clean counter. "Sweetheart, you went through something terrible. Your mind is trying to make sense of it, but sometimes I'm not confused." The words came out harder than I intended. I saw him. He was watching.
Carmen's carefully composed mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something sharp and calculating underneath. Then she smoothed it back into place. Derek was in his room. We all were. "You're traumatized, baby. It's normal to have false memories after something like this." But I remembered those eyes across the street, the satisfaction in them, the way he'd whispered against my ear. That night, I lay in the guest room that would be my temporary home, staring at the ceiling and trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Every time I closed my eyes, I smelled smoke and saw Derek's face in the crowd, not running toward me in panic, but standing there watching, like he was waiting for something or someone. The official story was simple: faulty wiring, tragic accident, family pulling together in crisis. Carmen had already scheduled the renovation. Miguel had filed the insurance claim. Derek had earned sympathy from everyone who heard about his sister's narrow escape. But stories, I was learning, were just another kind of performance. And my family had always been excellent performers. "You think Derek set the fire?" Emma Walsh didn't ask it as a question. She stated it like a fact while we sat in our usual corner booth at Grind Coffee, the place where we'd spent countless hours since high school. Her dark eyes studied my face with the intensity that made her such a good web developer. She saw patterns others missed. "I know how it sounds," I said, wrapping my hands around my mug. The coffee had gone cold, but I needed something to hold on to. My own brother. But Emma, you should have seen his face that night. Emma had known me for 8 years. She'd watched me navigate my family's dysfunction, seen how I'd always been the scapegoat while Derek played the perfect son. If anyone would believe me, it would be her. "Okay," she said finally, "let's say you're right. Why? Why would Derek burn down your room?" I don't know. The admission felt like failure. But something's not right about this whole thing. The insurance guy was too quick, too eager to close it. My parents are acting weird, even for them. And Derek, I shuddered, remembering his whisper. He knew something. Emma pulled out her laptop. "Tell me about the insurance adjuster. What was his name?"
"Tom Bradley." Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Bradley. Here he is." She frowned at the screen. "Bella, this guy has closed 15 fire cases in the last 6 months, all quick settlements, all ruled electrical." My stomach dropped. That's not normal, is it? For a legitimate adjuster? Hell no! Most investigations take weeks. She clicked through more pages. "Look at this. 3 of these fires happened in houses where the families had recent insurance increases. Big ones." "We increased ours last year," I whispered. "Derek's college fund. Carmen said we needed better coverage for our investment in the children's future." Emma's expression darkened. "Bella, what if this wasn't about hurting you? What if it was about money?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Family meeting tonight, 7 p.m., important." I showed Emma the message. She read it and shook her head. "Don't go alone." "It's just a family meeting with people who might have tried to kill you." Emma's voice was fierce, protective. She'd always been like that, loyal to a fault. "I'm serious, Bella. Something's very wrong here." That afternoon, Detective Sarah Chen arrived at our house for what she called a routine follow-up interview. She was younger than I'd expected, with sharp eyes and a quiet intensity that made me think she missed very little. Carmen invited her into the living room, offering coffee and cookies like this was a social visit. Derek positioned himself on the couch beside me, playing the supportive brother. Miguel hovered by the fireplace, checking his phone. "Just a few questions to close out our file," Chen said, pulling out a small notebook. "Bella, can you walk me through what happened that night?" I told her about waking up to flames, the smoke, the rescue. But when I mentioned seeing Derek outside before the fire trucks arrived, Carmen smoothly interrupted. She's still processing the trauma, detective. The doctors said false memories are common with smoke inhalation. Chen's pen stopped moving. She looked at me with those sharp eyes. Is that what happened, Bella? False memory? Something in her tone made me pay attention. She wasn't dismissing me the way my family had. She was listening. I don't think so, I said quietly. I remember it clearly. Derek's hand landed on my shoulder, a gesture that looked supportive but felt like a warning. She's been through a lot, detective. We all have. Maybe we should let her rest. But Chen wasn't looking at Derek. She was watching my parents' faces, cataloging their reactions. Mr. and Mrs. Scott, where were you when the fire started? Anniversary dinner at Sanctuary. We have the receipt. Got home just as the fire trucks arrived. And you, Derek? Asleep in my room. The sirens woke me up. Chen made notes, then looked up. Strange that a fire that started after midnight would be ruled electrical so quickly. Usually we see electrical fires earlier in the evening when people are using more power. The room went very still. Carmen's smile never wavered, but I saw her hands clench in her lap.
Well, Miguel said, his voice too casual, we're just grateful everyone's safe. Ready to move forward, you know? Of course, Chen said. She closed her notebook and stood. Bella, could I speak with you privately for a moment? Derek started to object, but Chen's look stopped him. Just standard procedure. She walked me to the front porch, away from my family's ears. Bella, she said quietly, in my experience, families that are too eager to move forward from traumatic events usually have something to hide. If you ever need to talk, really talk, without your family present, here's my card. I took it with shaking fingers. Detective Sarah Chen, Minneapolis PD, Family Crimes Unit. Family crimes? I whispered. I specialize in cases where family members harm each other, she said. It's more common than people think. And Bella, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. After she left, I sat on my bed holding her card and thinking about everything Emma had discovered. The suspicious insurance adjuster, the pattern of quick settlements, the way my family had closed ranks the moment I questioned their story. My phone buzzed. Emma, found something else. Tom Bradley was investigated by the State Insurance Commission 2 years ago for fraudulent claims. Case was dropped when key witnesses withdrew their statements. I stared at the message, pieces clicking into place. Then I noticed something I'd missed before. The timestamp on the text Derek had sent me the day after the fire. 2:45 a.m., 2 minutes before I'd woken up to flames. Hope you're okay. Sorry I couldn't help more. But how had he known I needed help before the fire even started? My hands shook as I screenshotted the message and sent it to Emma. Her response came immediately. We need to talk to Detective Chen. Tonight. The family meeting Carmen had called suddenly felt less like a discussion and more like a trap. But for the first time since the fire, I wasn't walking into it alone. I had allies now. People who believed me. People who wanted the truth as much as I did. The therapist's office smelled like vanilla candles and lies. Dr. Patricia Vance had kind eyes and a voice like warm honey, the kind of professional who specialized in broken families and shattered trust. Carmen had found her, of course, the best family trauma specialist in Minneapolis, she had announced as if shopping for therapy was the same as choosing a decorator. Insurance requires it, Detective Chen had explained when she recommended counseling, but it's also good for processing trauma. What she didn't say, but I heard anyway, was that it might also reveal truths my family didn't want exposed. We sat in a circle like we were about to hold hands and sing campfire songs. Carmen perched on the edge of her chair, spine straight, hands folded. Miguel slouched beside her, checking his phone every 30 seconds. Derek lounged across from me, the picture of concerned older brother.
Dr. Vance studied us all with those perceptive eyes. Why don't we start by having everyone share how the fire has affected them? Carmen launched into her performance immediately. It's been devastating, of course. Nearly losing Bella, it's every parent's nightmare. But we're so grateful she's safe. We just want to heal as a family and move forward together. She reached over and squeezed my hand. To anyone watching, it looked like maternal comfort. To me, it felt like a warning. Derek, how are you processing this? My brother ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. It's been really hard. Bella and I have always been close. Thinking about what could have happened, his voice cracked just enough to sound genuine. I keep replaying it in my mind, wishing I'd heard something earlier, could have helped sooner. Dr. Vance made a note. What did you hear that night? The sirens woke me up. By the time I got outside, the firefighters were already there. Bella was safe, thank God, but seeing her like that, he shook his head. I should have been there for her. The performance was flawless. Even I almost believed it. Bella, Dr. Vance turned to me. How are you feeling about all this? I opened my mouth to speak, but Carmen jumped in. Sweetie, she's been confused, doctor. The smoke inhalation, the trauma. She's been having some false memories about that night. We're worried about her. I can speak for myself, I said quietly. Derek leaned forward, concern radiating from him like cologne. We're not trying to speak for you, Bells. We just want to make sure you get the help you need. Dr. Vance held up a gentle hand. Let's hear from Bella directly. Bella, what do you remember about that night? I looked around the circle at my family's expectant faces. Carmen's smile was encouraging, but her eyes were steel. Derek nodded supportively while his jaw stayed clenched. Miguel wouldn't even look at me. I remember waking up to fire, I said slowly, the smoke, the heat, but I also remember seeing Derek outside before the fire trucks arrived. Sweetie, Carmen's voice dripped sympathy, we've been over this. Derek was in his room, the doctor said. Let Bella finish, Dr. Vance said firmly. Bella, tell me more about what you saw. I felt Derek's eyes boring into me. He was across the street, just watching. Not running toward the house like he was scared for me, just standing there. That must have been very confusing, Dr. Vance said, when someone we love isn't reacting the way we expect them to.
Because it didn't happen, Derek said, hurt coloring his voice. Doctor, I love my sister. The idea that she thinks I was just standing there while she could have died. He let emotion crack his words. It breaks my heart. Carmen reached over to rub Derek's shoulder. He's been beating himself up about this, wondering if there was more he could have done. Dr. Vance watched this display of family concern with neutral eyes. Family trauma can affect everyone differently. Sometimes our minds try to make sense of chaos by creating explanations, even if they're not accurate. I felt the ground shifting under me. Even the therapist thought I was making it up. Miguel? Dr. Vance turned to my father. You've been quiet. How are you processing this? Miguel looked up from his phone like he'd forgotten where he was. It's been difficult. The house, the insurance, the repairs. There's a lot to manage. How about emotionally? He shifted uncomfortably. I just want my family to be okay, for us to get back to normal. What does normal look like for your family? The question hung in the air like smoke. Carmen recovered first. We're very close. We support each other. Derek and Bella have always had such a sweet relationship. He's always looked out for her. Dr. Vance made another note. Bella, how would you describe your relationship with Derek? I felt trapped between truth and family loyalty. We're different. He's the successful one, star athlete, perfect grades. I've always been more difficult. Difficult how? Carmen laughed, but it sounded forced. Oh, she's not difficult. She's just always been our questioner, always wanting to know why things are the way they are. That sounds like healthy curiosity to me, Dr. Vance said. Derek, how do you see your relationship with Bella? I love her. She's my little sister. I've always tried to protect her, even when she didn't want protection.
The way he said it made my skin crawl. There was something possessive in his tone that made me think of locked doors and hidden cameras. Protect her from what? Derek glanced at Carmen, who gave him an almost imperceptible nod. Herself, sometimes. Bella can be impulsive. She makes decisions without thinking them through, gets involved with the wrong people. I started. Like that boyfriend sophomore year, remember Jason? We were so worried about his influence on you. I stared at her. Jason had been sweet, quiet, nothing like the dangerous influence she was describing. But we'd broken up after Derek had somehow gotten photos of us kissing and shown them to Jason's parents, claiming I was leading their son astray. Family dynamics can be complex, Dr. Vance said diplomatically. Bella, how did it feel to have your family worried about your choices? Like I couldn't be trusted, I said honestly. Like everything I did was wrong somehow. Dr. Vance's pen moved across her notepad. She was documenting something, filing away information in that careful way therapists had. I think that's enough for today, Carmen said suddenly, checking her watch. This has been very emotional for all of us. Actually, Dr. Vance said, I'd like to schedule individual sessions with each of you. Sometimes people feel more comfortable sharing when they're not worried about family members' reactions. I saw panic flicker across Carmen's face before she smoothed it away. Oh, I don't think that's necessary. We don't keep secrets in this family. It's standard practice, Dr. Vance said calmly, and often helpful for processing trauma. Bella, would you be comfortable with that? For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Yes, I'd like that. Derek's hand landed on my shoulder again, that familiar weight that felt like ownership. We just want what's best for her, Doctor. Sometimes Bella needs guidance to know what that is.
Dr. Vance's eyes sharpened almost imperceptibly. I find that most people know what they need better than anyone else realizes. After we left, Carmen was quiet in the car. Too quiet. Derek sat beside me in the back seat, and I could feel his tension like heat from a furnace. That went well, Miguel said, trying to fill the silence. Did it? Carmen's voice was razor sharp because I think Dr. Vance got some very wrong impressions about our family. She's just doing her job, I said. Carmen's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Some jobs are more helpful than others, sweetheart. I hope you remember that. The threat was subtle but clear. Step out of line, and there would be consequences. That night, I lay in the guest room and thought about Dr. Vance's questions, the way she'd watched our interactions, the notes she'd taken when Derek talked about protecting me. Maybe, just maybe, I'd found another ally, someone who could see through the performance to the truth underneath. Detective Chen called while I was pretending to eat breakfast. Carmen answered with her polished phone voice, the one she used for important business. Of course, Detective, we're always happy to cooperate. Her tone was warm honey over sharp glass. Derek, it's for you. My brother looked up from his protein shake, and for just a moment, I saw something flicker across his face. Not quite fear, but its cousin. What does she want? Just follow-up questions. You know how thorough these investigators have to be. Carmen's smile was bright and meaningless. Nothing to worry about. But Derek was worrying. I could see it in the way he gripped his glass too tightly, the muscle that jumped in his jaw. The golden child wasn't used to being questioned.
An hour later, Chen arrived with a partner I hadn't met, Detective Rivera, older, with tired eyes and the kind of face that had seen too much. They asked Derek to come to the station for an interview. Is that really necessary? Miguel emerged from his home office, briefcase in hand. Derek has passes, and frankly, after everything our family has been through... It's routine, Mr. Scott, Chen said calmly, just tidying up loose ends.
Derek, you're not under arrest. You're free to leave at any time, and you can have a lawyer present if you'd prefer. I don't need a lawyer, Derek said quickly. I have nothing to hide. Carmen beamed at him like he'd just scored the winning touchdown. Of course you don't, sweetheart. But I noticed she didn't offer to drive him, and I noticed the look that passed between my parents. Quick, sharp, full of meaning I couldn't decode. After they left, the house felt different, smaller somehow, like the walls were pressing in. Carmen moved through the rooms like a general inspecting troops, straightening already perfect surfaces, adjusting decorative objects that didn't need adjusting. I think we should renovate your room soon, she said, not looking at me. Get you back to normal. What if there's still evidence up there? What if the police need to look at something? Her hands stilled on the crystal vase she'd been rotating. Evidence of what, Bella? I don't know. That's why we shouldn't rush to... There's nothing to find. Her voice cut like wire. It was an electrical fire. The insurance adjuster confirmed it. The fire department agreed. What evidence could there possibly be? But what if... She spun to face me, and the mask dropped completely. For the first time in my life, I saw my mother without her careful composure. What looked back at me was harder than I'd imagined, colder than I'd feared. Listen to me very carefully, she said, her voice low and controlled. This family has worked too hard and come too far to be destroyed by paranoid fantasies. Derek is a good boy, a successful boy. He has opportunities. Colleges want him. Scouts are watching him. I will not let anyone, including you, ruin his future over some confused memories from a traumatic night. The silence that followed felt dangerous. I'd always known Carmen was controlling, but this was something else. This was a mother who would sacrifice one child to protect another. What if my memories aren't confused? I whispered. Her laugh was sharp as breaking glass. Then you'd better hope they are. Because if you keep pushing this, if you keep trying to destroy your brother, you'll find out exactly how much this family is willing to sacrifice to protect what matters. She walked away, leaving me sitting there with the weight of her threat pressing down like smoke. Miguel came home early, unusual for a man who lived at his office. He found me in the kitchen, still processing Carmen's words. Rough day, he said, loosening his tie. This whole situation, it's been hard on your mother. What about me? The question slipped out before I could stop it. It's been hard on me, too. He poured himself a scotch, though it was barely 3 o'clock. Of course, but you're young, you'll bounce back. Your mother, she's invested so much in this family, in our reputation. Sometimes I think it would kill her if anything threatened what we've built. Even if what we've built is based on lies? He's tightened on his glass. What are you talking about? The fire, Dad. The insurance adjuster who barely looked at the evidence. Derek being outside before the firefighters came. The timestamp on his text. None of it adds up. Miguel drank deeply, then set his glass down with shaking hands. Bella, sometimes the truth is less important than peace, less important than keeping the family together. What if keeping the family together means covering up crimes? He flinched like I'd slapped him. Derek didn't commit any crimes. He's a good boy. Maybe not perfect, but good. And families protect each other. That's what we do. Even when protection becomes complicity? He was quiet for a long time, staring into a scotch like it held answers. When he finally looked up, his eyes were older than they'd been that morning. Your brother came back an hour ago, he said quietly. The police interview didn't go the way your mother hoped. My heart hammered. What do you mean? Detective Chen, she asked him about his whereabouts that night. Specific times, specific details. And Derek's story, it had some inconsistencies. What kind of inconsistencies? Miguel finished his drink. The kind that make lawyers necessary. Before I could ask more questions, I heard the front door slam. Derek's voice echoed through the house, tight with anger. They treated me like a criminal, asked the same questions over and over, trying to trip me up.
Carmen's response was too quiet to hear, but Derek's wasn't. She made me feel like I was lying about everything, about where I was, about what I heard, about when I went outside, like she thought I set the fucking fire. Language. Carmen's voice, sharp and automatic. This is all Bella's fault, Derek continued, his voice getting closer to the kitchen. If she hadn't filled their heads with paranoid bullshit about seeing me outside... He appeared in the doorway and stopped when he saw me sitting there. For a moment, his mask slipped completely, and I saw something raw and desperate in his eyes. "What did you tell them?" he demanded. "The truth?"
The truth? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You don't know what truth is. You never have. You live in this fantasy world where everyone's out to get you, where your own family is the enemy. Maybe because you are. The words hung between us like a challenge. Derek stepped closer, and I instinctively backed away. "I've spent my whole life looking out for you," he said softly, "protecting you from yourself, from the consequences of your bad choices. And this is how you repay me? By trying to destroy me? I'm not trying to destroy anyone. I just want to know what really happened that night." His smile was sharp as broken glass. "Be careful what you wish for, little sister. Sometimes the truth is more dangerous than lies." Miguel cleared his throat uncomfortably. "Maybe we should all take a step back. Think about what's best for the family." "What's best for the family," Derek said, never taking his eyes off me, "is for everyone to remember their place. Remember who they can trust. Remember what happens to people who bite the hand that feeds them." The threat was clear, but for the first time since the fire, I wasn't backing down. "I remember a lot of things," I said quietly. "More than you think, more than you'd like." Something flickered in his eyes. Fear, anger, calculation. Then the mask slid back into place. "I love you, Bella," he said, his voice warm with false affection. "We all do. I hope you remember that when you're tempted to believe Detective Chen's insinuations. Family is forever. Everything else is temporary." He walked away, leaving me with the taste of ash in my mouth and the growing certainty that my brother was far more dangerous than I'd ever imagined. That evening, I called Emma from the guest room, keeping my voice low. "I just want you to know, Derek came back from questioning, and something went wrong." "Wrong how?" "His story had inconsistencies. My dad said they need lawyers now." Emma was quiet for a moment. "Bella, I've been digging deeper into that insurance adjuster, Tom Bradley. He's not just suspicious, he's dirty. 3 of his cases from last year are being investigated for fraud." "What kind of fraud?" "Staged fires. Families who needed money, properties that had conveniently expensive electrical problems, all ruled accidental, all paid out quickly." My stomach dropped. "Do you think my parents?" "I think your family is deeper than you know. And I think Derek set that fire not just to hurt you, but to cash in on insurance money." "But they could have killed me." "I don't think they cared," Emma said quietly. "Bella, you need to be really careful. If they're willing to commit arson for money, what else might they do to protect themselves?" After I hung up, I lay in the dark thinking about everything that had changed since the fire. How quickly my family had closed ranks, how perfectly their story aligned, how desperate they seemed to silence my questions. And I thought about Derek's threats, his warnings about what happened to people who betrayed the family. For 25 years, I'd believed I was part of this family. Now I was starting to understand I'd always been expendable, a liability to be managed, a problem to be solved. The question was, what were they planning to do about it? Emma's apartment smelled like coffee and determination. She'd cleared her entire dining table, covering it with laptops, hard drives, and cables that looked like digital spaghetti. When she got focused on a problem, she attacked it like a surgeon, precise, methodical, unstoppable. "I've been thinking about what you said," she told me, not looking up from the screen, "about Derek texting you at 2:45 a.m., 2 minutes before you woke up to fire." I sat across from her, watching lines of code scroll past. I screenshotted it, but screenshots can be faked. What we need is the actual metadata from the message, the digital fingerprint. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. Remember when you gave me your old laptop to wipe before you donated it? The one that was syncing to your iCloud? Yeah, but that was months ago. Cloud storage is forever, Bella. Nothing ever really gets deleted. She pulled up a screen full of folders. I cloned your backup before I wiped the drive. Professional habit, and look what I found. She turned the screen toward me. It was my text message history with Derek, going back 2 years. But this version showed things I'd never seen before. Read receipts, delivery confirmations, location data. Your phone was connected to your family's shared iCloud account, which means Derek's devices were backing up to the same cloud storage, including his deleted files. She clicked on a folder labeled Recently Deleted, and my world tilted sideways. Photos. Dozens of them. All of me. Me getting dressed in my room, taken through the window, me in the shower, shot through a gap in the bathroom blind, me sleeping, the camera close enough to catch the rise and fall of my breathing. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The violation hit me like a physical blow. Emma? I whispered, how long? Months, she said grimly, scrolling through the timestamps. Maybe longer. He's been watching you, photographing you, collecting images like trophies. My stomach rebelled. I ran to her bathroom and threw up everything I'd eaten that day, retching until there was nothing left but bile and disgust. Emma appeared with a cold washcloth. I'm so sorry. I should have warned you before I showed it to you.
He's my brother, I said, my voice hollow. He's supposed to protect me, not this. This is why he set the fire, Emma said quietly. Your laptop had the family cloud access. If investigators had examined it, they would have found these photos, evidence of what he'd been doing. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. He wasn't trying to kill me. He was trying to destroy evidence. The fire was supposed to look electrical, destroy your electronics, eliminate any proof of his crimes. You surviving was just collateral damage he was willing to accept. I sank to the floor, my back against the wall. 25 years of family dinners, birthday parties, Christmas mornings. 25 years of thinking Derek was distant but harmless. And all the time, he'd been watching me like prey. There's more, Emma said reluctantly. The timestamps show he was taking photos the night of the fire, right up until 2:30 a.m. What does that mean? It means he was in your room, Bella, taking pictures while you slept. He probably would have stayed longer, but something spooked him. Maybe you stirred. Maybe you were starting to wake up. So he set the fire and left. The room spun around me. He was there, in my room, while I was sleeping. Emma knelt beside me, her face fierce with protective anger. We're going to nail him. Every single photo is time-stamped, geotagged, traceable back to his device. This isn't circumstantial evidence. This is proof. What about my parents? Did they know? Emma pulled up another screen. I found some interesting text exchanges between your mom and Derek mostly. Want to see them? I nodded, though part of me wanted to run from any more revelations. The messages made my blood freeze. Carmen, the insurance adjuster will be here at 10. Remember, you were asleep. You didn't hear anything until the sirens. Derek, what if Bella says she saw me outside? Carmen, then Bella is confused from trauma. We stick to the story. Family first. Derek, what if she keeps pushing? Carmen, then we handle it, like we've handled everything else. They knew, I whispered. They both knew what he'd done, and they covered for him? Emma saved everything to multiple drives, encrypting the files with passwords only she knew. This is enough to put Derek away for years. Stalking, invasion of privacy, arson, attempted murder, and your parents for conspiracy and obstruction. I need to call Detective Chen. Already ahead of you. Emma held up her phone. I called her while you were in the bathroom. She's on her way. Detective Chen arrived 30 minutes later with backup. Detective Rivera and a digital forensic specialist who looked like he lived on energy drinks and suspicion. Jesus, Chen breathed, looking at the photos on Emma's screen. How long has this been going on? Based on the metadata, at least 8 months, possibly longer. The earliest photos I can recover are from last March. The forensic specialist, whose name tag read Martinez, plugged his own equipment into Emma's setup. "This is good work," he told her. "Professional level. You mind if I ask your background?" "Cybersecurity consultant. I specialize in recovering allegedly deleted data." Chen sat across from me, her expression grim but gentle. "Bella, I need to ask you some difficult questions. Did you ever suspect Derek was taking these photos?" "No. I mean, I always felt like someone was watching me, but I thought I was being paranoid. My family always said I was paranoid." "Classic gaslighting," Rivera muttered. "Make the victim doubt their own instincts." "The fire makes perfect sense now. Derek needed to destroy evidence before anyone could examine your electronics. The insurance money was probably a bonus, but the primary motive was covering up his crimes." Martinez looked up from his equipment. "Detective, you need to see this. The cloud account shows activity from multiple devices, not just Derek's phone." Chen leaned over his shoulder. "What do you mean?" "Someone else was accessing these files, downloading them, copying them. Look at this access log." The screen filled with timestamps and device IDs. Martinez pointed to a pattern of access from a different device. "This one's registered to Jake Morrison. Looks like Derek wasn't working alone." My world shattered a little more. Not just my brother, but his friend too. How many people had seen those photos? How many people had violated my most vulnerable moments into entertainment? "Jake Morrison," Chen repeated, making notes. "Derek's roommate freshman year, right? Still close friends?" "Best friends," I confirmed. "They do everything together." "Not anymore, they don't," Chen said grimly. "We're bringing Jake in tonight, and with this evidence, Derek won't be coming home for a long time." Emma squeezed my hand. "It's over, Bella. The truth is finally out." But as I looked at those photos, evidence of months of violation by the person who was supposed to protect me, I knew it wasn't over. It would never be over. Derek had stolen something from me that I could never get back. The ability to feel safe in my own skin. Still, as Detective Chen collected the evidence that would finally expose my family's lies, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Power. Not the power to hurt others, but the power to protect myself. The power to speak truth to authority and be believed. The power to say no more and have it matter.
Derek had set a fire to destroy evidence of his crimes. Instead, he'd lit the fuse that would destroy everything he'd tried to protect. Jake Morrison's hand shook as Detective Chen placed the voice recorder on the table between them. 20 years old, with the kind of soft features that made him look younger, he'd been crying before they even brought him in. "Jake," Chen said quietly, "we know about the photos. We know about the Accelerant. The question now is whether you want to tell us your side or let Derek tell it for you." "Derek would never," Jake started, then stopped himself. His loyalty was cracking like ice in spring. "Derek's already blaming you," Chen lied smoothly. "Says you were obsessed with his sister, that the fire was your idea." The color drained from Jake's face. "That's not true. I never wanted to hurt Bella. I tried to talk him out of it." "Talk him out of what, Jake?" The dam broke. Words poured out of him like water from a burst pipe. Months of guilt and fear and sleepless nights finally finding release. "The fire. He said it would just destroy her computer, teach her to stop asking questions. He made it sound like a prank. But when I saw the news, saw how bad it was, she could have died." "Tell me about the Accelerant." "My dad's auto shop. Derek researched which chemicals would burn clean, leave minimal residue. He said we were being scientific about it." Jake's voice broke.
He made everything sound reasonable when he explained it. Chen leaned forward. What about the photos? Jake's face crumpled. He said she knew that it was some kind of game between them, but the way he talked about her when she wasn't around, he shuddered, like she was property, like she existed for his entertainment. How long had he been taking them? Months, maybe longer. He had this whole system, cameras, schedules, backup files. He knew when she showered, when she slept, when she changed clothes. Jake looked sick. I told him it was wrong, but he said families look out for each other differently than strangers do. Did you download copies? He made me. Said if anything happened to his devices, we needed insurance. I hated having them on my phone, but Derek doesn't take no as an answer. Chen closed her notebook. Jake, Derek Scott systematically violated his sister's privacy, then committed arson to cover his tracks. He manipulated you into helping him. Are you willing to testify to that? Jake nodded, tears streaming down his face. I should have stopped him. I should have told someone. If Bella had died because I was too scared to stand up to him, you're standing up to him now. That's what matters. After Jake was processed and released pending trial, Chen found me in the waiting area. We have enough for arrest warrants, she said simply. All of them. The family meeting felt like a trap closing around me. Carmen sat rigid on the sofa, her composure perfect except for the white knuckles gripping her purse. Miguel paced by the fireplace, phone buzzing with ignored calls. Derek lounged in his chair, but his casualness felt forced. We need to discuss the situation with Detective Chen, Carmen began, her voice controlled. These accusations you've been making. They're not accusations, they're facts. Facts, Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. Bella, you're having a breakdown. The trauma, the stress, it's affecting your judgment. My judgment is fine. Carmen leaned forward, her mask of maternal concern slipping slightly. Is it? Because from where I sit, you're trying to destroy your family based on paranoid fantasies. The photos aren't fantasies. The room went dead quiet. Derek's face went through several expressions before settling on cold calculation. What photos? He asked carefully. The ones you took of me sleeping, showering, getting dressed. The ones Jake helped you store. Miguel stopped pacing. What is she talking about? Bella's confused, Carmen said quickly. She's been having false memories. Jake confessed, I said simply, about the accelerant, about the photos, about everything. Derek's composure finally cracked. Jake's a liar. He's unstable, jealous. He's testifying against you. Tomorrow. Carmen stood abruptly. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Sacrificed what? Your reputation? Your perfect family image? We protected you, Derek exploded. From yourself. From consequences you were too stupid to understand. You used me. As a scapegoat, as entertainment, as whatever you needed me to be. The sound of car doors slamming outside cut through the shouting. Derek looked toward the window, his face going white. Minneapolis police. Detective Chen's voice carried through the house. We have warrants. Derek looked at me with pure hatred as the officers entered. This isn't over, Bella. Family is forever. But as they cuffed him and read him his rights, I felt something I'd never experienced before. Not victory. Too many people had been hurt for that. But justice. The knowledge that truth had finally won over lies. As Derek was led away, Carmen turned to me with venom in her eyes. I hope you're happy. You've destroyed everything. No, I said quietly. Derek destroyed everything. I just stopped pretending otherwise. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Derek pled not guilty, forcing me to testify in painful detail about years of manipulation and violation. His lawyer painted me as mentally unstable, seeking attention by destroying my successful brother. Jake's testimony broke the case wide open. Voice shaking, he described Derek's manipulation, the systematic photography, the careful planning of the fire. When shown the photos and evidence, several jurors looked sick.
Dr. Vance provided clinical testimony about family dysfunction and scapegoating patterns. Her notes documented everything: the way my family spoke over me, dismissed my concerns, undermined my credibility, even in therapy. The verdict came down on a gray February morning, guilty on all counts: arson, attempted murder, stalking, possession of exploitative images. Derek was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Carmen and Miguel received suspended sentences for obstruction, but their reputations were destroyed. The perfect family facade had crumbled completely. 6 months later, I sat in a different therapist's office, working through the complicated grief of losing a family to their own crimes. The hardest part, I told Dr. Kim, is that I still miss them sometimes. That's normal, she said gently. You're mourning the family you thought you had, the family you deserved. I'd moved in with Emma's family temporarily, started college again, begun building a life based on truth instead of performance. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was mine. Derek wrote me from prison, a letter full of manipulation and false remorse, still trying to control the narrative even from behind bars. I read it once, then filed it away, evidence of who he really was, in case I ever forgot. On a snowy December evening, Emma found me looking through old photos. Christmas mornings, birthday parties, family vacations, all the memories that felt complicated now. Regrets? She asked. I looked at a picture of Derek and me as children, both smiling at the camera. I'd been maybe 10, still believing in the safety of family. Not regrets, I said. Grief for the person I was before I learned what he was capable of. That person is still in there, Emma said. She's just wiser now. Outside, snow fell in quiet patterns, covering the world in clean white silence. I thought about Derek in his cell, about Carmen and Miguel in their reduced circumstances, probably still telling themselves they'd done nothing wrong. And I thought about myself, 25 years old and finally free to build a life based on truth. Not the life I'd planned, but mine. For the first time in years, that felt like enough. 2 years after the fire that changed everything, I woke up to sunlight streaming through windows that belonged to me. The lease was in my name. The security deposit came from my job. The furniture was secondhand, but chosen by me. Small victories had become important markers in my life, each one proof that I could build something real from the ashes. "Bella!" Emma's voice drifted from the kitchen, along with the smell of coffee and something burning. "I may have overestimated my pancake skills." "It's the thought that counts," I said, kissing her cheek. Emma had moved in 3 months ago. The friendship forged in the fire of my family's destruction had become something deeper, something worth building a life around. "Mail came," she nodded toward a stack on the counter, "including something from Victim Services." I recognized the official envelope. Every few months, they sent updates about Derek's status. I'd been dreading this particular letter. His first parole hearing was approaching. "Miss Scott, Derek Scott has waived his right to a parole hearing at this time. He will not be eligible for another hearing for 3 years. Additionally, Mr. Scott has completed psychological counseling programs. His therapist reports significant progress in understanding the impact of his actions. If you wish to participate in the restorative justice process, please contact our office." Emma watched my face as I read. "How do you feel about that?" It was a question she asked often, one I'd learned to appreciate. My family had spent years telling me how I should feel. Emma just wanted to know what was actually happening inside my head. "Confused," I admitted. "Part of me wants him locked up forever. Part of me wonders if people can really change. And part of me is just tired of thinking about him at all. All of those can be true at the same time. This was something therapy had taught me. Emotions didn't have to make logical sense or follow neat patterns. My phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Kim. Don't forget about the support group tonight. The support group was Dr. Kim's idea 6 months ago. Healing happens in community, she said. Isolation is where trauma thrives. I'd resisted at first. My story felt too specific, too strange. But the group had taught me that details were different while patterns remain depressingly similar. Family members who chose reputation over safety, systems that protected perpetrators, victims told their reality was wrong. The afternoon was spent at my job, victim advocate for the county prosecutor's office. Detective Chen had suggested it during Derek's trial. She said, "You understand what victims go through." My current case involved a 16-year-old girl whose stepfather had been abusing her. The family was rallying around him, painting her as troubled. It was a story I knew by heart. "I don't think anyone believes me," she said during our session. "I believe you, and that matters more than you know." When I was going through something similar, having just one person believe me made all the difference. Did your family believe you? No. They chose to protect the person who hurt me, but that said more about them than about me or the truth. She looked up with eyes too old for her face. "Do you still talk to them?" "No. And I'm okay with that. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when things get hard, who believes you when speaking up is dangerous."
That evening at support group, Sarah shared her story for the first time. She was in her 40s, professionally dressed, the kind of woman who looked like she had everything together. Her story was heartbreaking and familiar. A golden child brother who could do no wrong, parents who chose his reputation over her safety. "The hardest part," she said, voice shaking, "is that I still love them. Even after everything, I miss the family I thought I had." Nods around the circle. We all understood that grief, mourning people who were still alive, relationships that had never been what we'd believed them to be. After the meeting, Emma and I walked to our favorite diner, a Thursday night ritual for processing heavy conversations over pie and coffee. "Sarah reminded me of you when you first started coming to group," Emma said. "So sure that your story wasn't worth telling." I did think that. For the longest time, I thought what happened to me wasn't as bad as what others had survived. Trauma isn't a competition. Dr. Kim says that a lot. Because it's true. Your brother violated your privacy for months, then tried to kill you to cover it up. Your parents chose his future over your safety. We sat in comfortable silence, watching late-night traffic. This was another thing I'd learned to value. Quiet moments with someone who knew my whole story and chose to stay. "I've been thinking about the restorative justice option," Emma said eventually. The idea of seeing Derek again, being in the same room with him, made my stomach clench. "You think I should do it?" "I think you should consider why the idea scares you." "I'm scared he'll manipulate me again, or that he'll be genuinely sorry and I'll have to figure out how to process that." "What if you went in knowing that whatever he says can't change the truth of what he did? What if the point was to say what you need to say?" 3 months later, I sat across from Derek in a sterile conference room at the state prison. He looked smaller than I remembered, older, like prison had worn away some of his sharp edges. "Bella," he said softly, "thank you for coming." "I didn't come for you," I said clearly. "I came for me." I pulled out the letter I'd written and rewritten a dozen times. "Derek, what you did to me wasn't love. It wasn't protection. It was violation and control dressed up in family loyalty. You stole my privacy for months. You made my home unsafe. You tried to kill me to cover up your crimes." I know all of that now." "Do you?"
Because in your letter, you said you did it because you loved me. That's not accountability, that's still manipulation. Derek looked down at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were wet. You're right. I told myself it was love because love was easier to live with than admitting I was a predator. The word hung between us. It was the first time he'd used it to describe himself. I was obsessed with controlling you. The photos, the surveillance, the fire, it was all about making sure you couldn't escape my control. Why? Because you were the only person who ever questioned me. Everyone else bought the perfect son act, but you saw through it. That terrified me. So, you tried to break me. Yes, and I'm sorry. Not because I want your forgiveness, but because you deserved better. When it was over, I felt lighter. Not because I'd forgiven him, that was still a work in progress, but because I'd said everything I needed to say. I'd returned the weight of his crimes to him where it belonged. How do you feel? Emma asked as we drove home. Free, I said. Finally free. From Derek? From the version of Derek I've been carrying in my head. The one who was still controlling my reactions even from prison. The real Derek is just a broken man who made terrible choices. He doesn't have power over me anymore. 6 months later, I stood before a classroom of social work students sharing my story as part of their curriculum on family trauma. The question I get asked most often is whether I've forgiven my family. The answer is complicated. I've forgiven them enough to stop carrying their guilt. But forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. Love doesn't require endangering yourself. A student raised her hand. Do you ever regret exposing them? Never. Truth-telling saved my life. It probably saved other people's lives too. After class, I met Emma for lunch. We'd been talking about marriage lately, not because we needed legal validation, but because we wanted to celebrate the family we'd chosen. How did it go? Good. There was a young woman who came up afterwards. She's dealing with something similar. I gave her Detective Chen's number. You're changing lives. I'm sharing my story. If that changes lives, I'm glad. As we walked to the car, Emma asked, "What do you want to do this weekend?" Nothing dramatic, I said, smiling. Maybe pancakes. Maybe just exist without having to prove anything to anyone. Sounds perfect. And for the first time in my life, it really did. The girl who'd nearly died in a fire set by her own brother was gone, replaced by a woman who'd learned to trust herself, to build chosen family, to find strength in truth-telling. I'd lost the family I'd been born into, but I'd gained something more valuable. The knowledge that I could survive anything, rebuild from nothing, love and be loved without conditions.
Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is refuse to carry other people's shame. Sometimes the bravest thing is building a life based on your own truth, rather than other people's comfortable lies. I'd learned both lessons in fire and rebuilt myself from the ashes, and I was finally, completely, home. 5 years after the fire, I stood at Emma's side in a garden ceremony, surrounded by people who had chosen to love us. Detective Chen was there, along with Dr. Kim and half my support group. Jake Morrison sat in the back row, sober now, working as a counselor for at-risk youth, still carrying the weight of his choices, but using it to help others avoid his mistakes. Carmen and Miguel weren't there. They'd moved to Arizona after the trial, selling their story to anyone who'd listen about their troubled daughter who'd destroyed their family with false accusations. Some people believed them. I'd learned that was their burden to carry, not mine. Derek wasn't there either, obviously. He'd written one final letter after learning about the wedding, rambling pages about forgiveness and family that I'd read once, then filed away. He was still serving his sentence, still my brother, still someone I loved who'd tried to destroy me. All of those things could be true simultaneously. Before you exchange vows, the officiant said, Bella has asked to share something with all of you.
I looked out at the faces gathered around us, Emma's parents who'd opened their home to a stranger, friends who'd stood by me through trials and therapy, colleagues who'd become chosen family, people who knew my whole story and loved me anyway. 5 years ago, I nearly died in a fire set by someone who was supposed to protect me. For a long time, I thought that fire was the worst thing that ever happened to me. But I've learned something important. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us also become the doorways to our best lives. I reached for Emma's hand. The fire didn't just destroy my room. It destroyed the lies I'd been living with, the relationships built on control instead of love, the version of myself that apologized for existing. What grew from those ashes was the ability to recognize real love when it found me. Emma squeezed my fingers, tears streaming down her face. That night taught me that families aren't just born, they're built. By people who believe you when speaking up is dangerous, who stand beside you when everyone else walks away, who help you rebuild not just your life, but your faith in your own worth. I looked directly at Emma. You saved me, not just from my family, but from the version of myself that thought survival was the same as living. You taught me the difference between existing and truly being alive. The ceremony continued with vows and rings and promises for a future we were choosing together. When it was over, we danced under string lights while people who loved us celebrated the family we'd created from nothing but truth and choice. Later, as we cleaned up paper plates and folded chairs, Detective Chen approached me. She said, "I have something for you," pulling out a small wrapped box. "I've carried this for 5 years, waiting for the right moment." Inside was a silver pendant, a phoenix rising from flames. "For the woman who rebuilt herself from ashes," Chen said simply. That night, Emma and I sat on our back porch, still wearing our wedding clothes, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. "Any regrets?" she asked. I thought about the question, about the family I'd lost, the innocence that fire had burned away, the years spent learning to trust my own voice. Not about today, not about us, not about telling the truth when it mattered most. I touched the phoenix pendant at my throat. The fire took away the family I thought I had, but it gave me the family I actually needed. Emma leaned against my shoulder. "What do you think happens next?" "Whatever we choose," I said. "That's the best part about building your own life. Instead of inheriting someone else's lies, every choice gets to be yours." A year later, we adopted our daughter, a 7-year-old who'd survived her own family trauma. Her room is painted sunshine yellow with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. We've promised her she'll always have a voice in our house, always be believed, always be safe. Sometimes healing isn't just about surviving what broke you. Sometimes it's about making sure the next generation doesn't have to survive the same things. My name is Bella Scott. I survived the fire my brother set to silence me. But more than that, I learned to build a life where silence is never required, where truth is celebrated instead of punished, where love means safety instead of control. If you're listening to this and you recognize your own story and mine, know this: you are not crazy, you are not alone, and your truth matters more than their comfort. The fire that nearly destroyed me became the light that guided me home. Your survival story can become your strength story too. Trust yourself, find your voice, build your own family from people who choose to stay when things get hard. And remember, sometimes the most radical thing you can do is simply refuse to carry other people's shame. You are worth more than that. You always were.
Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.